And now, finally, we've gotten to the portion of the stream where Dr. Elliot Smithson and I, we answer your questions.
Ronan has an anterior pelvic tilt, though.
Okay, so
let's talk about
this
that.
is anterior pelvic tilt. Boom! This is anterior pelvic tilt. Hopefully you guys can see that. This is posterior pelvic tilt. This is anterior pelvic tilt. Boom, 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 boom. And so what happens is our lower back and our pelvis is arching forward, meaning we get more of this arch in our back, and then our pelvis tilts forward like this. And so anterior pelvic tilt in itself is not a harmful position. Okay, just remember that, guys. The position in itself is not harmful, but if we stay in it for extended periods of time, then it can lead to some potential issues. And if you're asking how to get rid of it, what we can do is we're expecting that there's certain muscles that stay tight. There's certain muscles that are actually weak. And one of the most common stiff muscles that if they're really tight, it pulls on the front here and pulls us into this excessive extension. What is it?
Who's that Pokemon?
Who's that Pokemon? It's Pikachu.
It's your hip flexors!
It's your hip flexors!
Your hip flexors get tight.
It's Pikachu!
It's Clefairy!
It's Clefairy!
Damn it!
It's Clefairy! So, your hip flexors get really tight, but not only that, because you're in this forward position, your glutes are also lengthened, and that can cause them to be a little weak. So what we like to do is, I actually just posted a TikTok about this. If you guys want to check my TikTok, we work on activating the glute so we can passively stretch the hip flexor in front.
How do you activate the glute, Matt?
There's several ways. One, you can just stand there and squeeze your butt. And you see when I squeeze my butt, I actually move into this posterior pelvic tilt like this.
So if your butt was very much like
this.
Like a credit card reader.
Yes, if your butt is like a credit card reader and someone's trying to charge you, you want to squeeze your butt real tight.
Don't let them charge you.
Don't let them charge you, because you'll lose money. You'll lose money that way.
You'll lose all your money.
So
the butt charges.
So standing glute squeeze is one. The other one is, maybe Elliot can demonstrate. We'll talk about the bridge here.
The bridge.
Hi, TikTok. So he's going to demonstrate the bridge. This is how you activate your gluteus. Gluteus medius. No, gluteus maximus.
Gluteus maximus, the biggest glute that you've got.
All right, so he's going to demonstrate. He's going to lift his butt up towards the ceiling. And as he lifts his butt up, he's going to squeeze in his butt.
Squeeze those glutes so hard. I'm squeezing so hard.
Don't let me charge you. He's squeezing his butt really tight, and then he comes back down.
And so, back down. You got to keep doing that.
Yep. If you have a really, really tight hip flexor in the front of your hip, you might you
may not be able to get all the way up.
But you also might feel the stretch at the very top. So you get one, strengthening and activation of the glute, and two, you get a passive stretch of the hip flexor or psoas. And we love bang for your buck exercises, so that is something that we definitely recommend. Number two is you can even start by working on your hip flexor, because that can also release some of the, what we call inhibition. Muscles are tight in the front. It can prevent the muscles on the opposite side from working. So you can do a hip flexor stretch, and imagine this is the ground. Assume that 90-90 position. Drop your knee to the ground. Tighten your stomach. Lean forward, and boom! You feel the stretch in the front of your hip. You can sensitize it by lifting your arm up, tilting over to the left side, and then leaning back a little more. Holding that for 20 to 30 seconds. So, Ronan, I would try those two. Check out my TikTok. There's actually 3 exercises. You can try all 3 of those. And then that in itself doesn't change anything. You also have to be mindful of the position that you're sitting frequently. You can't, we don't want you to be in this overarched position. Be mindful of, are you in posterior pelvic tilt? Are you too arched? And find that neutral position. And over time, you'll find that muscle is not stiff, your hip flexor, and your glute isn't weak, and you're in a better overall position as you're sitting.
ZZ, how's it going, dude? Off topic, but what do you advise if inflammation isn't going away in regards to your forearms? What are some good anti-inflammatory measures that don't have anything to do with pills that he can do? There's a couple things. I'd like to start off talking about ice as one of them. You definitely can use ice packs to help your inflammation. The reason that you're having inflammation likely has to do with under preparation of your muscles. That's probably one of the biggest reasons that gamers have pain. So muscles, they have more than just the component of strength, and that's your ability to lift something heavy. They also have this property of endurance, which if you do not have enough endurance in your muscles, and you are doing repetitive motion like clicking or moving your mouse or just doing this all day, I do this a lot all day. Just my forearms just absolutely kill.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest reasons that you're going to have inflammation and pain in your forearms is you've underprepared them for those activities. So not only do you need to work the strength of your muscles, but you also need to work the endurance of those muscles. So how do we work endurance, Matt?
So the way that we work endurance is we want to be specific with how we prescribe our exercise. When we build strength, what do? We lift heavy weights, and we don't lift it with that many repetitions. Instead, we lift it with less, maybe between 4 to 6, and maybe even up to 8. But if we're trying to build muscular endurance, what we do is we perform upwards of 12, all the way up to even 100 repetitions, based on whatever activity that we're doing. For gamers, I think a good place to start is between 12 to 15 and building up from there using a light dumbbell, maybe 3 to 5% of your body weight. So for me, maybe a 5 to 6 pound dumbbell, performing repeated wrist extensions is going to help me build up muscular endurance here. And muscular endurance is actually represented by things in our physiology, in our mitochondria, and how efficiently they utilize some of the resources in our blood. But we won't discuss that in general. As you continue to
bunch of nerd shit,
yes,
Matt. Nerd shit.
As you continue to build your endurance, you will be able to know that you can handle more without feeling that inflammation. And I think it's still really key to state that it might not even be inflammation that you're feeling. What you're describing as inflammation just might be irritation of your tendon cells, especially if you have pain that's directed more in the wrist. So you might think that it's inflammation, but in fact, it's just irritation of those tendon cells leading to persistent pain. There's a lot to sort of unpack when it comes to tendon issues, but the overall approach is, hey, we have this load management approach where we do a little more every time, and we make sure that we build up our endurance at the same time. Is it possible that you build up your endurance, but you still have lingering irritation from the exercises rather than inflammation from overuse? You also lift 6 days of the week on top of endurance stuff. So really good question. Right? If you have lingering irritation, it's really important for us to be clear about what we're feeling. Right? So the next question I would ask if you were a patient of mine is, hey, what exactly are you feeling? Are you feeling aching? Are you feeling sharpness? Are you feeling stiffness? Are you feeling warmth? What are you feeling, and when are you feeling? Are you feeling it the next day when you have done a lot, when you both have done the endurance and lifting? Or, hey, maybe you spend a lot of time on the PC on one day, and then the next day you feel something. So in general, what you need to know about tendon issues, and this is high value content here, okay? Tendons will tell you if you have overloaded them 24 hours later, so the next day. So anytime you have issues or discomfort along, hey, maybe the palm side of your wrist here, the top side of your wrist here, the back side of your hand, you want to think, well, what did I do yesterday? What was the thing that I did? How long was I playing yesterday? Was it more than my average? Because if it was, it's very likely that it sensitized or irritated those tendon muscle or those tendon cells, leading to pain. Okay, so ZZ, hopefully that provides overall understanding. I wanted to inquire a little more about what you're feeling. But yeah, it is possible that even though you've been working on your endurance, if you happen to overload when you add lifting, when you add, maybe using your PC too much, it can still cause this lingering irritation. But we have to define what you mean by irritation. So yeah, that was that.
It's also important to do like some self-mobility and stuff and really focus on your recovery when you're not in the gym. Things like ice baths, things like doing lacrosse ball rolling on your forearms, really trying to do some self-massage of those forearms as well, try to get in there and mobilize the tight bands of muscles that are inevitably going to form when you're going that hard is also super important.
Hey guys. So, if you want to provide us a little more clarity, then even if you rest for a few days, so pain and irritation, where is it? Where's the pain?
Is it forearms?
Where in your forearms? Is it the palm side? Is it the back side of your forearm? And then also asking the question, have you been able to attribute it to anything from the day before? Was it increase of overall activity, increase of overall load? There's always a reason. Yeah, so good. I think most of the time it isn't inflammation. So I think it's astute of you to believe that or think that. Instead, it's probably just slight overload, and if it doesn't persist, it's nothing really that big to worry about. Just there's always a reason why you might feel this increase of soreness or increase of awareness if you have done something too much one day. So what does that tell you, right? What does that tell you? Especially, let's say if you're doing a heavy pull day, if it's on the palm side of your wrist or even on the back side of your wrist, you're using your wrist flexors very heavily to pull muscles. What if you're doing a heavy deadlift and you're not using a wrist strap? Guess what? Of course you're going to feel irritated the following days. And I wouldn't say you probably don't need to take a few days off lifting, but maybe the progression needs to be better managed. So when you do go the heavy days, maybe you're progressing too much in terms of what's heavy and you're doing too many repetitions or not getting enough rest between sets. Oh, have you ever had cases where people built up endurance significantly? Yeah, especially if they don't manage their load well, right? But part of working with them is working with their schedule, identifying and making sure that if they are doing weightlifting, that it's progressed well so that they don't overload their wrist and hand. Because a lot of the times, if you have power deficits, endurance deficits at your forearms and you try to do heavy lifting, guess what is the limiting factor? Of course it's going to be your forearm, right? Of course it's going to be the thing that's weakest along the chain. So it's really important to work with someone that's mindful that they can help you progress and help you make sense of what you're feeling and when. Okay, so ZZ, hey, we have our little coaching thing for Patreon. If you want to work with us individually, we can help you better program, meet with you, help you make better decisions. You can always check us out. Patreon.com/1HP.
If we improve real life reaction, does it help us in game? So I think that's a really interesting question, and I think the jury is still out a little bit as to how important reaction time or visual reaction time is for actually translating to in-game skill. Obviously, there is some component there where it matters, and then the amount that you're actually able to improve your reaction time is also kind of in question. So there's a lot of unknowns there. I would say that there is some correlation, probably, but I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket as your standard metric for like how good someone is. I've seen league players with abysmal reaction times and some of the best players in the world. And I've seen some people with really low reaction times and can't hit anything. Yeah. So it really kind of depends, but it's one piece of a much bigger holistic puzzle.
Exactly. I would say something that you can differentiate is, there's simple reaction time and then there's choice reaction time where you're making decisions based on, a stimulus or a certain cue. You can argue that, hey, choice reaction time is a little more important, but again, it's just one piece of the big pie. We had actually a conversation about this pretty recently in our Adderall and gaming video where we discussed, hey, reaction time is probably a little more important in games like in fighting games, right, where you are constantly reacting to certain things. And I would argue that, it is important to have faster reaction time. And I think historically when I have performed reaction time tests, fighting game community members are typically a little faster. But I always like to say, there's hardware and then there's software, right? Reaction time is a representation of our motor activation, right? And then our ability to perceive a stimulus, make a decision, process that information, and then activate our musculature based on that stimulus. And so once that's the actual hardware, we can train that hardware by doing exercises, right? Train our synaptic efficiency, our brain to muscle connection. And then software is our understanding of perceiving situations. If we understand that if someone travels on a certain lane in League of Legends, that it's going to mean X, Y, and Z, then we can make a faster decision, right? You're primed to make a faster decision. So there's hardware differences and then there's software differences. And just there's just a lot to I guess, unravel there.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with you that we need more academic research. It's probably one of the biggest problems esports has is just a lack of esports specific research regarding these things. And that's one of our big goals here at 1HP is to try to develop just a community of people worldwide that are interested in research and want to kind of further the line of knowledge here, especially for gamers.
Yeah, well, thank you guys all for tuning in. Look out for the VOD. We had a video just come out today. If you guys want to learn about cool down exercises you can do after sitting for long periods of time for your shoulder or after workout, check out that video, shoulder cool down for gamers. We have next week another interview with a pro. We have a cupping video that's going to come out. We have also Dr. Elliott answering just a million questions with Cyan, with Pole Belter. We're just demonstrating all these key things, and that's also going to be live. We're just machines with content. So look out for all of those in the coming weeks. And as we said, if you learn something, please share it. Please let the universe know 1HP is here to help gamers play more or less. And we'll see you guys soon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you need individualized coaching for your injuries, sleep, exercise, or nutrition, you can check out our Patreon. And of course, you can catch us live on YouTube or Twitch. Play more, hurt less.